Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Experts Interview on Role Model Maker. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer. And today with me, I have a good friend of mine, Miss Mellisa Deely. She's an integrative health practitioner. I had a chance to talk to her, and she has an amazing message, an amazing mission. I thought that our audience here could really benefit from that. So I decided to bring her on board, tell her ask her to tell us more about herself and what she does, and then you guys can benefit from that. So without further ado, Melissa, thank you for being here today and taking time out of your busy schedule. Tell us all about yourself and who you are and how you came to do what you do today.
Thank you very much, Dr. L. I'm honored to be here. I really appreciate this opportunity to help get my message out because I want more people to know that they have options in their healing journey. And in this day and age, unfortunately, too many people are left without the answers they need to heal, being told that they either need to be on a medication for the rest of their life. And if that's the case for children, that's really scary. But even for adults, that's a scary thought. And the reality is that the human body is designed to self-heal. It can heal a broken arm. It can heal a cut on your finger. And when we bring the body back into balance, it can also heal from many of the chronic illnesses that the world is struggling with today. And it's a matter of lifestyle, it's a matter of nutrition, but it's also a matter of being able to truly see what's going on inside our body so that we know exactly where we're out of balance and then how to bring the body back into balance. Unfortunately, we have a lot of toxins in our world today. And those toxins are getting into our body. We don't think about it because we can't see them. But I often like to ask people, are your trash cans overflowing? And I'm not talking about the ones they put out on the street. I'm talking about their liver and kidneys. Because after a lifetime of eating and toxins coming into our body from the air, from the water, from our food, our liver and kidneys get bogged down and they can't do the job they're supposed to do, which is to cleanse our blood and remove the toxins from our body. And when that happens, we start to have inflammation. That inflammation can become systemic and it can turn on genes that hold disease that wouldn't otherwise be turned on. So we need to empty those trash cans and get those toxins out. And that's really important. And that's the starting point for the work that I do with people is removing the toxicities. But then we support the deficiencies that we know about from these lab tests that I offer, functional medicine lab tests that help people truly see what's going on inside their body. And when we do those things, we remove the toxicities, we support the deficiencies, we can then guide the body back into balance and the body heals itself. So I am not a doctor. As you said, I'm an integrative health practitioner. I don't diagnose and I do not cure, but I help people find the root cause of their health struggle and then guide the body back into balance. How did I
Melissa,
go
sorry,
ahead?
I was just gonna probably ask you the same question. How did you get to do this? Why do you feel passionate about this in the first place?
Well, how did I get here is an interesting story. So I was in the corporate world for 24 years and raising two girls and busy, and just trying to survive and get through life. And of course, looking after everybody else first before looking after me. But 5 years ago, I got laid off when big fish bought little fish. And I realized in that moment when I was given an hour to clear out my desk and not even a word of thank you, that I never wanted to work for someone else again. And that whatever I did next had to be of service. And I had no idea what that was going to be. But I was open to being guided. And later that year, I found brain health and supplementation for brain health, which I thought was fascinating because we use our brains 24/7. And I had never been taught how to look after mine properly. And so I started learning about brain health and supporting the brain, nutrition for the brain. And then one of my daughters had a concussion. And then my second daughter had a concussion within 2 months of each other.
Oh, wow.
And when I got the phone call about that second concussion, I was driving and I literally looked up at the heavens and said, really, this is how you tell me my path? But stop taking out my children. And I knew then that I was going into a healing journey because I was already working with my first daughter on her concussion and healing and bringing nutrition to that piece. And as I continued my research and working with both of the girls, I learned about the second brain in our gut. And that shifted my whole perspective because I always thought the one in my head was the one that was the command center. But I now realize the one in the gut is the command center. And the one in my head is the operation center that makes the things happen that the one in the gut is telling us to do, because there's 9 messages from the gut to the brain for every 1 message from the brain to the gut. And
And
so I
I
went back
was
to
just going to
school.
mention actually on that note that about 70% of the neurotransmitters, the chemicals that actually communicate between nerve cells, are actually found in the gut. So if the gut is off, literally, the chemicals that send messages between neurons in your brain included, they're going to be off. So slight offset in your gut can have huge implications in the brain. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And so that is where my focus has actually shifted now to helping people heal their gut, because when we heal the gut and bring the gut back into balance, we're also healing the brain. And I often ask people to stop and think, if you have a headache, how does your gut feel? Next time you have a headache, stop and think about that. Or if your gut is feeling off, how are you feeling in your brain? Is there brain fog or fatigue, or maybe you just feel kind of fuzzy in the brain? They are so connected, and you have that immediate response. And you're right about the neurotransmitters. If your body is not functioning properly in your gut, you're not going to be producing the serotonin levels you need in order to just feel happy. And there's so much anxiety and depression in the world today, and people are being put on drugs to help. And the drugs are really masking. And what we need to be doing is looking at, where is the gut out of balance? How can we heal it so the body starts producing the appropriate levels of serotonin and dopamine so people can feel happy again and put that anxiety and depression behind them? And we could have a whole different conversation on that. But just coming back to how I got into this, and my passion is that I decided I needed to go back to school. I loved all the research that I was doing, but I didn't have any certification in this field. So I stumbled upon health coaching and jumped into that. And then after completing my health coaching and my mastery levels, I found the Integrative Health Practitioner program, which just allows me to take my knowledge from health coaching to that next level and truly help people heal by offering these functional medicine labs that let them see what's going on inside their body. And when they see that and we're using the data and the science of it, they feel confident that now they're on the right path to healing. Because very often I will suggest to someone that maybe they have food intolerances that are upsetting their gut, causing inflammation, causing problems. And their response is, but I've eaten it all my life. How can I have a food intolerance? And that takes me back to our overflowing trash cans. Because when those trash cans are overflowing, we do have more food intolerances. The body might have tolerated something before, and now it just can't. It's working overtime and it can't do it. And so you feel awful and you don't know why, because very often the response is 48 to 72 hours after you've actually eaten that food. And who remembers what they ate 2 or 3 days ago?
Right.
Not many people.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's been a fascinating journey. And I just want to add, looking back 2020, I realized that it's been actually 15 years that I've been directed on this path,
Mm.
because I brought both of my girls way earlier than their concussions through food intolerance testing to help them in the classroom. One of them was struggling, her attention span was decreasing, her handwriting was getting worse, and the teacher expressed concern. And the other one was putting her head down on her desk after lunch every day at the end of grade 1. Again, the teacher expressed concern. I went to mainstream and got told all little girls get tummy aches. She'll grow out of it. And I was just asking, but why and how long? Then I found food intolerance testing and was able to truly see what was going on. My daughter that was putting her head down, she couldn't do gluten or dairy. But when we cleaned up her gut, removed that, and brought her gut back into balance, she was able to fully function again. And it didn't actually take that long. And my other daughter, it was yeast and sugar. Again, remove that from her diet. And now she can focus and sit still in the classroom. And her handwriting improved and her essay writing improved because she could focus for longer. So people don't necessarily connect. And as a busy working mom, I didn't know A, how much sugar was in everything, but B, that connection between food and our child's learning to that degree.
Absolutely. I love it. And one thing that I just wanted to mention is we go out of our way to provide the best for the kids, whether it's finances, whether it's home environment, whatever it happens to be. And sometimes when we look at the news, for instance, and they say mental health is, a big concern. And, there's like when I was growing up, autism spectrum disorders was 1 in 10,000. Now it's 1 in 58. And at first they thought it was genetics. And then they realized, that couldn't explain the rapid rise and everything. Uh, and, and now they're understanding this. And the fact of the matter is that a child's brain builds on top of each other based on it's like layers basically. So if you've got a child that didn't develop properly from 2 to 4 years of age, now now they have to build on top of what didn't develop properly, and this
Mhm.
kind of cascades as they go into school, and then now you're asking the brain to perform at a optimal level without supporting it and giving it optimal development, and then you see it crash and crumble basically. So very, very important stuff. So I feel very passionate about it, and I'm very thankful that you actually do the work that you do. So in doing this, tell me a little bit more about the importance of basically food tolerance testing and allergies and sensitivities. Is it that everybody has this? Is it something that there are certain individuals that are more prone to it? And also what some of the challenges are for people, be it big or small, when it comes to gut health in general.
Right. So is it something everybody should do? You know what? In an ideal world, I would say yes, because how helpful would it be for you to know what your body truly likes and what it doesn't like? And when we know what it doesn't like, it doesn't mean we can't ever eat it. That would be an anaphylactic reaction. But I'm just talking food sensitivity, right? So it doesn't mean we can't ever eat it. But when our gut is healthy, our gut could tolerate it. Perhaps if we ate it once a week, or if you were a little bit more intolerant, maybe it's once a month. But when you know that, you can truly start to listen to your body, know when your gut is healthy, and make choices when you're out and about. If I eat this today, might not feel so great in 3 days, but it's social, it's part of, I just want to be part of this and I'm okay with that. Or if I eat this today and I ate something else yesterday, it's really going to knock me off my feet. And in 3 days, I have a presentation. I'm going to say no, thank you. And that's really powerful because so many people are walking around right now with unhappy guts that are out of balance or in dysbiosis. And they just don't know about the food that's going in and how that's adding to their discomfort. When we know the foods that our body doesn't like, we can also be better managing the inflammation level in our body, which is so important as well. Because as I said earlier, an inflamed body can trigger an environment that turns on genes to trigger disease. We now know that only 5 to 10% of disease is actually genetic. And that's empowering news because that means 90 to 95% is created through the environment that we create inside our body. And
Absolutely.
we have the ability to change that when we know this information. And so that's the message that I want to get out to people that isn't being taught through mainstream health, public health, or the education system, that we really have choices once we have the knowledge. So my answer is yes, everybody should do it. I just did mine again and can see that my gut is really clean. And so it's great for me to have that to show my clients in comparison to theirs. This food sensitivity report, it tests for 195 different foods across all different cultures. So it's really comprehensive. It's just literally a finger prick to your fingers. So we can do it on young children, even babies, all the way through. My lab tests get mailed to people's houses, so it couldn't be easier. They don't have to book an appointment or go to a clinic and be worried about COVID, of course.
Yep.
And they mail it back. And then I get the results and I review them with people. It will indicate other complications as well, such as candida overgrowth in the gut or leaky gut. But then we
Right.
know that and we can help heal that. And for those who don't know what leaky gut is, it's becoming more and more common. And what it is when we have little tiny holes in our intestinal wall so that tiny pieces of food or antibiotic or fungus or bacteria get into our bloodstream. And that just makes our liver have to work even harder to cleanse our blood. And when we know that's happening, we also then know how to heal it.
And actually, on that note, I was going to mention that when it comes to the leaky gut and the cells that form the lining of the gut, when they start separating, even good molecules can penetrate and go to the other side of gut. And then when your body encounters a molecule that typically does not belong there, it can have an inflammatory reaction as if there's an infection there. So you can trigger autoimmune disorders and all kinds of other inflammatory processes that actually disrupts your body's normal functioning. Not because what's there is bad, it's just that your body's not used to seeing that there. So it's very, very important for that lining to be basically intact. So very, very important thing. And many times people have these reactions and they don't know why, because they technically are having regularly good food, but as you mentioned, their gut is in a state of dysbiosis. So
Exactly.
you know,
And it's so true that many autoimmune diseases are starting as a result of a leaky gut. And it's also true that when someone suffers from a concussion, if they're not also looking at healing their gut at the same time, they can end up with leaky gut. Or the other way around, if you have leaky gut and if it's not treated, it can end up as a leaky brain now. So none of us want any of these things to be happening. The problem is because we don't see it, we just don't know. And so that's where the benefit of the functional medicine lab tests come in. I mentioned the food sensitivity test, but there's another test that we can do, which looks at 75 biomarkers inside the body, looking at yeast, fungal, bacteria, candida overgrowth, looking at neurotransmitter function that you mentioned before, looking at our detox pathways and glutathione production, looking at amino acids, mitochondrial function for energy. So all of that in one lab test gives us so much information as to what is going on inside you that then allows a personalized wellness protocol to be created to bring your body back into balance.
actually, one of the things you mentioned, which I found when I was in practice, that was a big challenge. It actually manifested as two different problems. The first one was the fact that not every food will give you an immediate reaction. In fact, some of these sensitivities don't show up until, or they can stay in your body for like 72 hours before they really start showing up. So the cause and effect is missing. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other part is that when you're chronically consuming something that is not right for you, your body actually gets used to that state being normal. So what would you think of as, well, that's just my regular personality, that I can have normal headaches, or I can have, normal irritability, or whatever you see as your normal limitations, in fact, are things that are just hindrances in your lifestyle, basically. So definitely. So what are some of the tips and secrets that you actually have for the audience that are seeing a host of typically unrelated health situations that seems to get in the way of their lives, basically?
Well, first of all, anytime that you're experiencing that, I want to encourage people to be listening to their body. You have lived in your body your entire life. You know it better than anyone. You are your own best doctor. So if you go to your regular doctor and they do some blood work and then they tell you nothing's wrong and you know something's wrong, listen to that, because something is wrong. Your body is out of balance and it's talking to you. And that's when you need to search for a naturopath, an integrative health practitioner, somebody in the holistic field that can run functional medicine lab tests for you so that we can truly find out what is going on inside your body. So don't give up. There are more and more of us integrative health practitioners around, albeit in Canada, I'm actually the only one on the West Coast, but my business is 100% virtual and the labs go to your house. So we can be anywhere. You can find us. So that's the first step, is don't give up, listen to your body, and do continue to seek the answers to your healing. And you're so right that people normalize it. It's like you don't watch your children, you can't see your children growing. And sometimes our body talking to us is so subtle that it just keeps talking to us and we ignore it. And then the way we feel, a year from now is worse than the way we feel right now, but we haven't noticed that change. And I often ask my clients, just how good are you willing to allow yourself to feel? Because you should feel amazing. You should jump out of bed in the morning with energy. You should be sleeping well when your body is in balance, excited and ready for your day and what you were put here on this earth to do and to give to the world. And if you're not feeling that way, start listening to your body and start figuring out why. Um, so for people that are concerned about food sensitivities, as we've talked about the lab, but you can also do a rotation diet yourself. So if you have an idea of what those food sensitivities might be, you can create a diet. You're going to need to track what you're eating every day. And over a 3-day period, pick the foods that you might be concerned about and have them once a day and track that. And then notice how you're feeling immediately after eating, an hour after eating, but also 2 days and 3 days after eating, so that you can start to figure out what it is that's triggering your system. So for somebody that doesn't want to do the lab, I also have like templates of rotation diets that they can use, as well as a food, mood, and poop journal. And you probably don't talk about poop here very often, but I have to because it's such a clue to gut health. And I have people track their food, their poop, as well as their mood. And when I say mood, it's not just mood, it's anything that they're sensing within their body in terms of how they're feeling. And so those are really great ways to start to narrow down what you might be putting in that's upsetting your system. The best way to figure out what's already going on are the lab tests.
I was going to mention that about 90% of the processes that happen and the thoughts that go on in your brain are subconscious and you don't notice it. It's constantly monitoring and coordinating things with the rest of your body. And 90% of it, it doesn't even come to your conscious level, basically. But what ends up happening is that a lot of times the underlying tone and the underlying message and the correspondence that's going on in that subconscious can make you feel a certain way or uh, basically give you a feeling. And then what your brain typically does on the conscious level is look for validation in the surrounding environment. So many times we look for external stimuli and external factors that are going on in our lives that matches our moods and our feelings. So we're like, the reason I'm feeling lousy is because so and so said this, or that I ended up running into this situation. Whereas the reality is actually there was an underlying problem already and your brain is just connecting the two together. And if you actually address the underlying thing, you realize those external factors that blow up and become out of proportion, that seem out of control in your life, they actually just simply melt away and disappear, and you look at them completely different. So it's a very, very powerful tool for you if you want to change your life, if you want to show up differently in life, to actually go ahead and address those underlying things that you're describing. So definitely.
Absolutely. And I fully agree. When I talk to people about their subconscious mind, I just refer to it as a filing cabinet with no judgment. Whatever happens to you, every experience is just being filed. And then it does, as you say, it relates back to past experiences to try to connect. And that's where it's looking for the external validation from some past experience.
Right, exactly. Awesome. Um, so tell us more about how the audience can go ahead and find out more about you, what you do, and connect with you and contact you.
So the best way is my website, which is simply betterbrainhealth.info. A little interesting story about that, of course, as you know, I started out with concussion work, and my tagline used to be optimizing both your brains, which I thought was very clever. But it was too clever because it was lost on the general public who didn't know they had two brains. So I had to change my tagline to your guided journey to longevity. But that's my website, betterbrainhealth.info. I'm very much about educating my clients as we go through the process of healing, so they have that knowledge for the rest of their life. And so that's why I chose the .info. And at the top of that page is a work with me button. And I do offer a complimentary 30-minute consult to people, as I experienced with a naturopath years ago when trying to get to the bottom of my children's situations so that we can just have that discussion. You can get to know me, I can understand what you're struggling with, and let you know if I'm the right person to guide your healing journey. And I'm also on Facebook at Better Brain Health, Your Guided Journey to Longevity, Instagram, Better Brain Health, and LinkedIn as Mellisa Deely. And my email address is melissa@betterbrainhealth.info. So lots of places to find me. And I look forward to helping anybody that is struggling, and particularly in your audience with families with children. I see too many children being given pharmaceuticals and being told they need to take it for life in order to resolve behavioral or learning disabilities. And I invite parents to get a second opinion. Let's look at what's going on inside your child's gut and bring that back into balance to see if that is all your child needs. The microbiome is, or your gut, is passed down 4 generations on the mother's side. And so your child's microbiome, first of all, isn't fully developed until about age 3, but perhaps it's out of balance, not because of your child, but because of that past history. And
Right.
we simply need to bring it back into balance. And that will address the learning issues, as exactly what happened with my children.
Absolutely. Powerful stuff.
Mhm.
Definitely. Well, I'll make sure that we have all your contact information and the links and everything in the description box below. So I invite our family to go ahead and check and take advantage of Melissa's expertise and connect with her. It's always good to have some extra support, basically. So definitely appreciate you and your offer and the fact that you were able to come here today and show up for us and tell us about what you do. Melissa, any final words of wisdom for our audience today?
Simply what I said earlier is listen to your body, it will guide you. And I have to tell a quick little story for parents of kids, because they know as well. And what happened with my youngest daughter when we found out she was gluten and dairy intolerant, I had no idea what to feed the child for breakfast. I was trying to get her out the door and get myself to work. So I started giving her eggs. And I did that every day for lack of knowing what else to do. This is back in 2007. So there wasn't a lot of gluten-free support out there. And then after 30 days, we went back to do the food intolerance testing again. But she had been telling me by the end of week 1, I don't want another egg. I don't want another egg. And I was like, just eat it. I have nothing else to give you. And we did the food intolerance testing. And guess what came up? Highly intolerant to eggs.
Yeah.
And I just went, oh, my poor child. She was telling me, and I was a parent not listening. And so that's just one little piece that I know it's really hard as parents to know. Is your child just being difficult, or does your child really know? But stop and ask yourself that, because they do really know. And again, the testing can show you exactly what's going on if you're just not sure.
And it changes from time to time too, right? You know,
It
it's
absolutely
amazing.
does.
How many of you remember a time when you actually liked the food and then you didn't like it anymore? And even if you have a good food, if you keep eating it over and over again, you can develop toxicity levels towards it as well. So,
It
so
all,
definitely.
yeah, it all depends on A, how full your trash cans are, but B, again, every one of us has a different microbiome. And so the way we need to eat for our unique body is different even to the other family members. And so that's the other thing, is that we put food on the table out of convenience and have everybody eat the same thing, but not everybody can. And so again, that's where it's really important as a family to be listening, because your kids, they do know.
Mhm. Absolutely. Powerful stuff. Good stuff. I like it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, audience, for joining us today. We hope to see you in future episodes. And until then, see you then. Cheers.
Thank you very much.